Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Desk with Chad and Amy. And today we're going to be talking about understanding safety and Medellin. Hey, baby.
Hi. You didn't quite know what was gonna come out of your mouth,
I
did
didn't.
you?
I didn't know if you were going to kick things off or not.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, I guess I tend to always just start it off, right?
You do?
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about safety,
Yeah.
specifically around Medellin. And I think the most important thing that we're going to be talking about is understanding it. So it's not just about like it is safe or it isn't safe. It's about what does it actually mean? Because here in America, um, we might look at safety a little bit differently than things are there. We
Absolutely.
might have different ideas of what safe means, and everybody should have their own definition of what safe means. But in Colombia and Medellin specifically, there's also zones within cities,
Mhm.
which we don't necessarily have like hard lines, outlined zones. We do know this neighborhood's good, this neighborhood
Maybe not so
maybe
much.
not so much. But there's actually defined, and that can affect rates for your utilities. That like it plays a part into your
Yeah,
everyday
you're
life.
Estrada.
Right. So, understanding, because people hear on the headlines all the time, Colombia unsafe, Colombia run by cartels. But here's the thing: Colombia's a really big country, and where
Yeah.
we're going, Medellin is also a relatively big
And
city.
there is cartel there.
But then within that city and its limits,
Yeah.
there's also these um, suburbs
Safer.
that have different safety
Sure.
levels, and where we're going specifically is one that we had a non-negotiable, and that's part of the reason we're going to where we're going.
Yeah.
So we want to help kind of like define a little bit what that means, but also the things to look for, and also a little bit of the recent news of what's been happening there, because what happens is the headline says blah 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 in Colombia or in, and but it doesn't mean it's happening where we're going. It doesn't mean it's happening where a lot of the expats do go. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Or, the tourists. And yeah, we will talk a little bit more about
Exactly.
that. But
Yeah.
I want to go back really quick and I want to talk about our preparation really quick for this, not for this trip, but for the potential move.
Mhm.
We are busting our butts with Ever Studios. We are really working hard to get everything in place in order for us to move. And I do want to give a little shout out. There are two YouTubers, AK and Andrew Messina, both with the Medellin Masterclass. You can Google that. You can look them up on YouTube as well. The Medellin Buzz, and then AK Joel's his YouTube channel as well. These two guys I have been watching for months and months and months, and they probably have some of the best content out there, or the best content that I've found, if you want to move to Medellin. And so you and I have a consult with them this week, like a 15, 20-minute consult or whatever to talk about. And I did purchase the Medellin Masterclass,
Right.
and it is loaded with super helpful content that you would need. But they also provide a service called the Elite, and they do it all for you. Like they'll find an apartment for you or a house, like all that kind of stuff. So it's not like you can just hop on a plane and, get down to Colombia every month, right? So you need somebody
Yeah.
to help you.
As as a business consultant, one of the things that I really appreciated about their onboarding
Yeah.
was that they had a nice questionnaire, but it wasn't just like the questions were intentional. There's a reason that they asked every question, which a lot of times when you look at other companies and you look at their onboarding for master classes or consulting or whatever, the questions that are asked, sometimes they're not the right questions. And so you don't actually get the information you need to prepare yourself to help this client the best you can. And I really respected the questions they asked because the things they were asking is going to arm them with the info to create a solution tailored for
Right.
us because our what we need is going to be different than the next
Yeah,
person. And they had great
absolutely.
questions that really help give them the information to dissect that. But you're right, we've been busting our butt with our studios. We just erased our blackboard over Amy's shoulder, going over our budget. You know, it's
Yeah.
the beginning of the year. We want to not only understand our finances, but also what is it we want to achieve, and then how do we achieve them,
Hmm.
right? So we went through our entire, not only just budgeting, but also setting goals, making them time bound, figuring out what it is we need to do, when we need to do it, and then holding each other accountability to make sure it
Right.
gets done.
Yeah, it was really great. I thank you, babe, because I really wanted to touch on that because if you are looking to move to Medellin, these two gentlemen are absolutely spectacular and really have, excuse me, I still have a cough. Really have great content around all of this stuff.
Yeah,
So
we'll link them in the
yeah,
Spotify and YouTube descriptions.
yeah. And they do talk a little bit about safety as well. DC Born Rob is another YouTuber. Now he specifically talks about safety in Medellin.
And a lot of
So
news updates
yeah,
and some laws that shift and yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
He's really good.
a good resource for like the the news bulletins of what's happening.
Yeah, because there are so many YouTube videos out there that are trash. And what I mean by that is that you have tourists going down there, men, specifically for the sex tourism. That's who's getting drugged and robbed.
Yeah, so we're going to jump into that in a little
Yep.
bit later. We actually have a specific case that we're going to talk about, but let's kick things off with the realities of safety in Medellin, and
Misconceptions.
let's talk about misconceptions and the realities. Okay, so let's just jump into a couple of them. Let's talk about some misconceptions. What do you got?
So when you hear that Colombia is under a travel, what is that, a 3 or whatever it is, when you go onto the
Yeah,
website to check it out, the government's website, you can even go to the U.S. Embassy and they'll tell you the same
it gives you
thing.
the status of like what the other countries, how the U.S. feels traveling there is.
Excuse
What's
me, I'm going to
safe,
grab some cough drops. I'm listening.
safe, not safe, that sort of stuff, right? And you know, it's important to do your research, of course, but staying up to date on that weekly basis of what's happening is also going to arm you with the trends. What seems to happen when? What is the frequency of it? So it's good to subscribe to that bulletin, especially for a country way ahead of time, right? 6 months, a
Yeah.
year ahead of time. Start figuring out what happens when,
Mhm.
because if it's a country where there's just spikes that happen on a monthly basis, you may be reconsidering that if it's something that just came out and there hasn't been anything for 3 years.
But I think when people look at websites and they see that a no travel zone or whatever, like it's not all of Colombia.
We're talking about they're bulleting the entire country.
And most of us that don't live in Colombia, right? We don't know the area well enough to know what's safe and what's not
Right.
safe, which is why your research is incredibly important and to stay up to date. Like Medellin has a brand new mayor. All of the cities have new mayors now. Sabaneta has a new mayor. Envigado has a new mayor. But Medellin's mayor in particular sees how much tourism plays a part in their local economy, and safety is really putting a damper on that. So he's talking about, new cameras.
Oh,
And
right. For this throughout the city.
and like here in America, 911 is our emergency call. In
Yep.
Medellin, it's 123.
Yep.
I think in all of Colombia. So having that accessible for people. If your phone gets stolen, you need to have a phone. They still have payphones down there. So just understanding that when you look at something that says don't go to Colombia, or people in America, like we automatically think, oh, Colombia, and we think of Pablo Escobar. It is not the same.
And the entire country is not the same
And
thing
the
either.
entire, right. However, you do want to take precautions just like you would in any country. So, and some a little more than others. So I think there's a misconception about, well, people just not having an understanding of Colombia, and we have the opportunity to tell a different story or the true story. What's, real.
Yeah, especially based on our experience and our
Yeah.
research.
Right.
And we didn't stumble across Medellin. That was intentional, right?
Hmm.
Research supported that was the right choice for us for the lifestyle we
Hmm.
want, what we want. And right, we're starting off with a discovery trip with the intention of more, but everything could come to a halt after this trip. We just don't know until we get there because it's based off of our feeling, our experience.
But we do have friends there now, or some, I wouldn't say friend
Connections, yeah.
connections, which has been really helpful, including the owners of our Airbnb, our Airbnb. I can't even talk right now. Our Airbnb that we will be staying at. So Mateo, he is really excited that we are considering, living there part time. So there's also a misconception that Colombians are not nice. When the Paisa people from Medellin, just them specifically, are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Now, I'll tell you, if you go in there acting like you own the place, they're probably not going to be nice to you
Right.
because
I don't know
you're
why anybody would go into a country thinking they're better than them. I mean, that's just rude, first of all.
you'd be surprised.
It's really not cool.
Yeah. So, there's a strong culture, and if you go against their culture, they're going to look at you.
Yeah.
You're painting a target on yourself
Hmm.
by doing that. So that's at your fault.
Hmm.
But if you go in there respecting the culture and wanting to understand, some of the nicest, and they all say it, the nicest people they've met, and they've
Yeah.
traveled all over the world.
Right. So yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions I think about Colombia. You do have armed guards there, look, carrying AK-47s that are part of the police. Um, so you do still have that in different parts. There is crime there. There are robberies. There are kidnappings. There is definitely human trafficking still happening there. Definitely, marijuana and cocaine still happening there. But if you focus on just that, you're not going to be able to see the beauty
Right.
in this country either. So just be careful. Like, use common sense, really. But you're not going to know unless you actually do the research yourself.
Yeah.
So,
Um, okay, so let's talk about the reality of tourist deaths.
yeah. So around 40, or maybe a little bit more in 2023 of tourist deaths just in Medellin. Why? What is the common factor? The common factor, well, there's several. They're all men. They were all going down there for sex tourism. If you're really that hard up, I mean, if you're coming from the States, I mean, we've got 50 states here. Do you know what I mean? But what happens is um, the Colombian women are stunning. They're just stunningly beautiful.
Shakira.
Yeah. So Sofia
Vergara.
Vergara, yeah. So they're from, where did we say they were
I
from?
don't know.
Barranquillo. I
Could look
think
them up.
Barranquillo.
Yeah.
Um, at any rate, they're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But the culture there, and we talked about this in the last, I think, episode, the typical culture there for dating, you better know who you are. Like the common Colombian young lady, you have to have your shit together. You better be confident. You better be able to go up and talk to her and say hello. But there is not a um, pickup. It's not a one night stand kind of culture. They just don't do that. So if you are on Tinder or you are on those ridiculous dating apps, there are women on there just waiting to lure the man from the tourist. And if they immediately invite you to come over to their house, that's a red flag. If they say, come on over, they meet you at a bar. I've got a couple of my girlfriends. We want you to come back to our house. We're going to cook you a good Colombian meal. Red flag. Don't do that. Right. So you need to know, don't ever go back with anybody. Don't ever meet somebody just meet them in a very, very public place. Um, you just have to understand the signs.
I think the point you're getting at is use common sense.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of people understand what common sense is. And if you, I mean, are you that hard up? I mean, I don't understand why you would go to another country I'm a little confused by that. I mean, prostitution is legal there, but they have brothels, if you will, that you go in and you pay and you're safe there. You don't need to be going out here and being on Bumble or Tinder or whatever, because they are waiting and they're going to use scopolamine.
Yeah,
And
but I
they're
think
going
that
to.
would happen no matter what. I don't think that it's exclusive to dating apps. Dating apps might be an easy way
It's not
to,
exclusive,
right.
no, but that is one of the main places
But
where they're picking
you could
guys
also
up.
just go to a bar
Hmm.
and somebody could slip you something in your
That's
drink
what
and
I
then,
said. Yeah.
right. So it's not just exclusive to dating apps. You have to be aware of your surroundings. Just like that's what I mean by common sense. Don't be an idiot about it.
Hmm.
If you've got somebody that's absolutely hanging all over you that you just met, that's
They don't, Colombian women don't operate like that. That's not normal culture for them. That's a big red
yeah.
flag. If they're wanting you to come back with them, that kind of stuff. So you just have
Maybe
to
it's
be very,
common
very
sense to me.
careful.
Maybe you're educating, and it's just like, why would anybody do that? Maybe I'm just coming from a point of view of mine, but what you're describing, I don't think I would ever put myself in that position. So I don't. To me, it's common sense. Why would you even do that?
Well, you're not one of the reasons I married you. You're not the average guy that just, is out there just looking
I
for.
hope the people that stumble across this video who are, who've been following us are also not that type of person, right? The warnings that we're giving is 40 tourist deaths, but the reason they happen and the reason they were all men was because they were idiots doing things that they shouldn't have
Been in
done
places that they shouldn't have been in.
and then getting taken
So
advantage
it's
of.
not tourists like you and I, and it's
Right.
definitely not women. Women are not the ones being killed
Correct.
or robbed. It's men. And there's a specific type of men, which is that single man
Who
going down there
demonstrate
to. Correct.
certain type of behavior.
Correct.
Right. Because even if I was a single man going down there, I wouldn't be jumping on Tinder in a foreign country.
Or hitting a bar,
And I wouldn't
like
be hitting
dance
a
clubs.
bar
Yeah.
and
Out till
specific
2 o'clock in the
putting myself in
morning.
a position to get taken advantage of.
Right.
So my hope is that the people that are stumbling across this are not using this as a checklist of what right looks like. This is an explanation of why there was 40 tourist deaths,
Right.
is because idiots were going down doing idiotic
Mhm.
things.
And if you
And not to
go,
say that they got what's coming to them. I'm just saying there's a reason behind that. It's not because they were just backpacking through Europe and got snatched up
well,
into.
that does happen,
That does
but
happen too.
it's not often compared to, right?
Right.
And this is specific to Medellin.
Right.
But you can go to the U.S. Embassy of Colombia. There is a link here. Babe, if you could pop that in the bottom, just so people know what scopolamine is.
Embassy link, yeah.
It's actually used to help with like motion sickness. So you know how I get car sick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's used to help with that and being nauseated. And in Medellin, though, it's used to drug a person and rob them blind. And I mean, they will get your phone because they're really after your phone and any money that you might have, because the U.S. dollar goes very far there. If you have any crypto, any access to your bank accounts, any of that stuff on your phone, they'll take it all. They'll take it all. But it's odorless, it's tasteless. It's a plant, and it's memory blocking. And it can also incapacitate you. So it could knock you out for like a whole 24 hours. And that's what's happening. And these guys were waking up. Where am I? Some were in the hospital, whatever. And some were actually killed. So it can actually like literally render you unconscious.
Yeah.
So, and in large doses, it can kill you. So if you are a victim of crime, though, there's a link in here where you can go to the U.S. Embassy. Chad will put that in there for you, and how they can assist you. If you are in imminent danger, call 123. That's like the United States is 911. Avoid going to bars or nightclubs alone. Don't leave with strangers ever. Do not leave your food or drink unattended. We do that here in the States. Don't ever leave your drinks unattended here in a bar. And don't accept anything from a stranger. Nothing. And don't give them your phone. Like, here we'll say, here, can you put your number in? Don't do that. Don't do that. And then seek medical attention immediately. They want people to speak up. So the police there, they want people to start speaking up, because these are only the 40 that have been the 40 cases. There's only people that are speaking up. There's a lot of victims that are not speaking up, and they want you to. That's when they say, oh my God, there's like, this is a huge problem. And the mayor is seeing that and starting to do something about it. So, specific risk to single men using the dating apps. This is a big deal.
Yeah, I think one that I don't know that we missed it. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but before you travel to any country, do search and find out where the U.S. embassy is
Yes.
compared to where you're staying.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's a couple reasons for that. The one that comes to mind for me is a two-parter. One, you already consciously know. You've done the search, you know it. But two, let's say it's 12 minutes away, you get in a taxi to go there and you're at 15, 17, you know there's something wrong. You should have been there by then,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can just be aware because the U.S. Embassy is U.S. soil in a foreign country. You hold up your passport, you walk through the gates, and oftentimes there's 20, 30 people trying to get in for, to be a refugee or whatever. They can't get in because they're not a U.S. citizen. They have to
Yeah.
wait their turn in a different queue. You literally walk up, they open the gates for you. It is just remarkable what that pass does for you, being an American citizen in a foreign country.
Yeah.
So know where your embassy is. Not because you plan on ever having to do it, but in the event, I mean, we're not born Jason Bourne, where we just driving
Right.
around chaotically. But if you know where it is, you're armed with the information,
Yeah.
and you're therefore able to, do the things you need to do.
And this is in any country. This is not just Colombia. Like we're talking anywhere in Europe. Like it doesn't matter.
Right.
So
back to risks with single men and an app, right?
yeah.
You're talking about the apps.
So they very often use these dating apps there. Tinder is probably the biggest. Bumble is another one. It's not that I guess you shouldn't, but if you do, please understand. Like we think catfishing is bad here in the States. That's nothing compared to what happens there.
Yeah.
Right. So single men are the target, and the dating apps, they think this beautiful woman. If you have a really, really young lady, and you're a 40-year-old man, I personally have an issue with you being 40 and going after somebody really, really young. But second, that's a red flag. If you have a young woman coming after you, that's a red flag. That's somebody, they're dangerous. Just exercise caution. Don't be impulsive. And I think that's what they're seeing. Oh my God, she thinks she wants me to come over. You're thinking wrong. That's, come back to common sense there and use your brain. And don't make those impulsive decisions. And then we have for expats,
I hate that we even have to talk about
I know, I don't either, but
my stomach is pitted. Like I'm sitting here listening to this. I'm like, oh, this is so dumb. This is so dumb.
But it's real.
But it's real.
Yeah.
And it sucks because my mind doesn't work that way, right? So I'm like, who even puts himself in this position that these kinds of things need to be said? Because here's the thing: if everybody was educated and nobody did this, they would have to figure out a different scam because it didn't work. The problem is it's working. That's why it's still happening, because people are not doing what I'm considering common sense and being aware of red flags and not putting themselves in positions. So,
well, we also have to understand the poverty rate there. Although I'm very happy to say it dropped from 40% to 35, I think it was, or 32% in 2023. That is massive.
Well, they also had a minimum wage increase.
They had a minimum, and they're getting ready to have another one, and that may have already have happened. So, these are great things that are happening in Colombia, for the locals. But the poverty rate is still real. They live up in the mountains, and they come down and they, go after the single men, especially those that have money, that are flashy. They can target a tourist in a heartbeat. And that's it. Dressing and acting like a local is actually the next point we have here.
Right.
Don't do that. Don't. Am I making a noise?
Oh yeah, the mic's picking it up.
Sorry.
It's like the it's like the lady in the movie theater who's opening her hard candies.
The annoying lady. I'm the annoying lady right now. But avoid being flashy. Don't dress like a tourist, right. And that's flip flops for men. Don't wear those. they're not very fond of
bare feet.
bare feet in men. And everybody wears jeans there for the most part. So just understanding it may not be like that here, but we cannot go into another country and expect them to change and be like us. That's just wrong.
But also, you can't be flashy. Like
Watches,
if you're gonna
jewelry.
wear, an expensive watch and have your phone out, you're opening yourself up
Yeah.
to
Become a target.
you become a target, but because you were an idiot. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You do stupid shit's going to happen.
Absolutely. And the locals will look at you like that as well. Well, why were you being stupid? That they don't
Right.
they don't have this empathetic.
I have empathy for you.
No, it's you were being stupid. My mom would always say, "Stupid is as stupid does."
It's true.
It's just kind of true. So street smart.
So if you're curious what to wear, you can do some Google searches. You can watch some videos
It show you,
pay
yeah.
attention to the people that are around.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The locals.
That's what I tend to my eye draws to is, they might be somebody might be filming and walking through explaining this street and all the cool restaurants that are on it.
But look at the people.
I'm barely even listening to what they're saying. I'm looking at the people because I don't consider myself a flat. I'm wearing all my clothes are shades of black and white and gray, but I'm not a flashy person at all.
No, me
right?
neither.
I mean, I wear a rubber wedding ring. I don't even wear like
your good one. You don't wear your nice one.
Right. But if I was wearing nice stuff, I have to know that comes with certain targeting and repercussions.
Well, if we were going to
even
a special place,
even judgments, you go out and if you were wearing big ass diamond earrings and a pearl necklace, you're going to attract attention
immediately.
And it might be unwanted, but regardless, attention nonetheless. And if there are people that are that have negative intentions, you're attracting them as well.
Well, we live in an attention-seeking culture here in the States. Kids today, it's all about the likes. It's all about the
difference is you attract attention. It could be your life.
There, it's not.
It could be
correct.
Injury.
It's very different.
It could be your passport getting stolen and now you're stuck in a foreign country.
Yeah, their culture is not like that at all. We just watched a video the other day, and they were talking about, in Colombia, when your shoes are worn out, you don't go to buy a new pair. You go get them resold.
Repaired, yeah.
Repaired. Yeah. Things are repaired there. Instead of your TV breaks, you don't go buy a new one. So there's a huge stewardship around what they already have and working with what they have. And so,
but also they're not wasteful.
They're not wasteful. Yep. Food never goes to waste.
Right.
And things like that. So just being aware of all of that stuff and will keep you living like a local there.
Which is our next bullet, which was street smarts. And we've kind of beat it in this episode,
use
but for a purpose, you need to use common sense. Don't go down isolated streets. Stay in well-populated areas, right? I mean, those are the things that I would assume most people would say that's a smart thing to do, but in the event that that's not the case, you're in a foreign country, you got to be mindful of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And you want to do research around your local areas.
Oh, please do that. And it is a little more difficult when you're dealing with somewhere like Latin America. And if you don't know Spanish, then, you need to know how to translate somehow, some way, either find somebody or Google Translate it or whatever you need to do. But make sure you have a really good understanding. You just sent me something from the Colombian consulate the other day, and I translated it. And they said it was going to take a little bit longer for your cedula. No surprise there. Right. But there was a lot more information around that. So know what you're reading or, know what's being posted.
Yeah.
And research your local areas. And some of the different neighborhoods there or the barrios to avoid, like Parque Lleras is one. It is increased. The prostitution has increased there. And so it's avoided by locals. And El Centro, if you need to stay in a group, if you go there, do not ever go there by yourself and do not go at night. After 6 o'clock in El Centro, you don't even need to be on the street. And there's plenty more, like up high in the mountains is where you will find a lot of the folks that are underprivileged. And so in those poorer neighborhoods is where more crime is, and that's they're coming down into
There's more acts
Medellin.
of
More
desperation.
absolutely. So don't be going up in there. Bello is another one. Comuna 13, awesome to visit during the day. Don't be there at night. Comuna 13 was the most dangerous city in the world at one time. But you still want to be careful at night. You don't want to be there. And then Itegüe, which is, did I say that right? I think, but that's just on the opposite side of Sabaneta, across the main road there. Safer places, Laureles, El Poblado, Sabaneta, and Envigado. Sabaneta and Envigado is the number one, rates number one, then Sabaneta, and then Laureles and El Poblado. So those are some different neighborhoods. Look them up, get on a map, check them out. Italki. So I have a new Spanish instructor. She is from Medellin. She is a civil engineer there. She is amazing, stunningly beautiful, of course. Her name is Natalie, but she spells it Nathalie.
Hmm.
So, but her name is Natalie. And she speaks to me pretty much in Spanish. And
Right.
so I'm having to translate. But I was very happy to have an instructor like that, even though she knows a little English. I was very happy to have an instructor like that because that's what we're going to be thrown into. This is a Spanish speaking country. There's not many that speak Spanish. So, I mean, English. So, being able to talk with a Paisa local is also really cool. I've learned a lot from her already. So, that's another great way to learn more about this city is if you're learning Spanish, get a Spanish instructor from that area and talk with them and ask them those questions and do some more investigating that way too. Um, and then obviously Colombian dating culture. Again, it is not a hookup culture at all. Stay off of the apps. Colombians, they do have a type of shaming about this when somebody gets hurt. Like I said, it's kind of like you shouldn't have been in that place in the first place. Like, why were you even there? Or, you know, don't be stupid. And they're pretty blunt like that. Like, okay, you want me to feel sorry for you? I'm not going to because you weren't smart. You didn't think.
Right.
Um, so pay attention, listen to the advice, and use common sense. So on to the good stuff.
I think for me, the biggest take is that the headlines you see about safety in
Yeah.
Colombia is not uniformly for every city in Colombia. And specifically, Medellin has almost its own. It reminds me of, oh, this, I might piss somebody off by saying this. It reminds me of Texas as a whole, but then there is Austin, this little island of, you got your left wing and your right wing in America, right? So it's this island of the opposite. So it's this very liberal city
Within.
amongst this huge, one of the largest, if not the largest state in the United States, that is more conservative,
Mhm.
right? And Medellin kind of reminds me of that, where you have this huge country that in general is ranked very low on safety. But then you have Medellin, this small little developed area inside of the full rainforest and mountains. And essentially it is this safe haven. It has its, you know,
Yeah,
issues,
yeah, it
but
does.
it has also this elevated this new age that the rest of the country just isn't have
Mhm.
yet. And so when you hear the headlines about Colombia, we chose Medellin for a very specific reason. Because I was born in Palmyra, and in Cali was where
The orphanage
the
was.
orphanage was, and
Still the most dangerous city
Bogota
in
obviously
Colombia.
is the capital.
Mhm.
We're removed from that. We're in this other area that is, parts of it are very similar to where we live right now, right? They could be compared, when it comes to the safety aspect, to some of the cities that are around us that we are very comfortable being in right now. So jumping into the positives, I think my biggest takeaway was that Medellin definitely has a different safety level than Colombia chalked up as a whole.
Hmm.
So it's good to pay attention to the headlines about Colombia, but know that there's more to the story
Right.
than just that headline, especially when you're looking at specific cities within.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think about human trafficking, for instance. It's everywhere, and the United States is the number one consumer. Did you know? I know, I think I told you this already, but your football, your NFL, your NBA, those stadiums, huge places where human trafficking occurs. Did you know that?
Yeah, you told me.
Super Bowl. Well, guess what? It's happening right underneath our nose. And it happens in Colombia as well, but in a different way. So crime is happening here too, just done differently. It's done under the radar, but children are still at risk of being exploited and being captured online by a predator, a trafficker. Um, and trafficking doesn't necessarily mean so here it's more technological. There's a they're able to traffic uh, people and children in a different way than they do in Colombia, but it still happens. So you still have to be aware. We're just used to our culture here. So we don't really think about it. Well, we're not used to the culture there, so we're a little more, hyper vigilant about knowing our surroundings and things like that. So I think it's stuff happens everywhere. So and it's still a developing country. However, you go to Detroit, everybody, oh my God, Detroit's so bad. It's so scary. Don't go there, whatever. There are gangs there. There are places that you shouldn't go, especially alone. You need to be with somebody a local. But it's okay to go to Little Caesars Arena, right? It's okay to go there and see a concert. It's okay to go downtown to, I don't know, go to a restaurant or whatever. And yet, look what happened in Greektown. There was a shootout not too long ago. This is everywhere. You have to be careful everywhere you go. So, I do want to talk about the good stuff, though. I want to highlight some positives. Because
You mentioned human trafficking. I just want to name drop an organization that's local here in
Pontiac.
Pontiac, Michigan. They're Hope Against Trafficking. So if that's a topic that you'd like to learn more about, I I definitely want to encourage you to visit their website, talk with their team. It's hopeagainsttrafficking.org. They're doing their part to combat this epidemic of an
Mm-hmm.
issue that we have
It
in the
is an
United
epidemic.
States. Because for us to be the number one consumer of the entire world, that's a really big problem.
And children are the most wanted.
It's a really big
Yeah.
problem. So I just wanted to, because it hits for some people. I mean, I'm sure people watching saw how I kind of sunk a little bit there because it's just devastating that we go through day to day with this stuff happening under our nose, and most people, their thought is, "But it won't happen to me," and I'm sure the people that it does happen to thought that as well. So,
And
hopeagainsttrafficking.org, great organization.
yeah, our nonprofit, A Courageous Voices, partnered with them. And our organization, we use prevention education in schools and other youth serving organizations to work with children K through 12 on the prevention side. And so we work with Hope Against Trafficking and have I trained a couple of their folks now, having trained facilitators to help me go out into the schools and teach.
Yeah, we'll drop both of those links in the
Yeah.
down
And so
below
we
as
do
well.
cover a lot of child trafficking.
Like you said, you want to talk about the positives.
I
Let's
do want
end
to
this
talk
on
about
a
the
good note,
positives.
just like we're training our doggo. End on a good note.
We do want to end on a good note because with all of this safety stuff, it did not distract us or have us say, nope, not going there. It scared me at first, remember? But it's because most of the stuff that was out there was this this stuff that was people, they were just trying to get viewers. They were just trying to get the likes. They were just trying to get the shares.
And one of the things we did is we sat down and we said, okay, let's cancel out the noise and let's just look at the data. And we pulled stats. This is when we were
Yep.
going between um, Spain, a part of Mexico, and Colombia, and then figuring out which cities. And we had 3 cities from each country as well. And we pulled the numbers and we looked at what are the actual facts of it. How much
Mhm.
does stuff cost? What is the crime rates? What is it on affordability for purchasing land? Right? We looked at all of those things, And I think that put our mind at ease on a lot of the rhetoric that was going around because we pulled 2023 data and we were able to look at the crime stats and we were able to look at the safety ratings and say, okay, there's a different story here than what we're being told.
We really did break it down.
We broke it down. We had a whole graph and everything. It was very analytical.
Yeah,
and
enlightening.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, at first we had some, but the reality is we looked at the data and now we know there's a lot of positives.
Yeah, and talking to people that live there. So what makes it attractive? What makes it attractive to us? I don't think we can speak for everybody else, but like what makes Medellin, Sabaneta, Envigado, that whole Antioquia area attractive to us?
I think there's a couple things. Part for me, a substantial part is um, my continued loss of faith in how the United States government runs the country. When I think about how things were a decade ago and 2 decades ago, and when I try to mentally project how I think things are going to be 10 years from now, which puts me in my 50s, which is around when we want to not be working and enjoying life. Are we going to be enjoying life, or are we still going to be forced to work? Are we still going to be forced to contribute to stuff that we're not able to take advantage of? Are our rates going to be so skyrocketed that we can't? I mean, it used to be a single hold income in America would carry the family, and now both people within a home have to work, and they're still barely making it.
Right.
So
It's
when I
just so
so
expensive.
when I look at like the trend, and I ask myself, is this the dream that I want, or am I able to create a dream somewhere else that still follows suit with what we desire to do,
Right.
but in a way that is financially affordable, allows us the time and environment to thrive, and that we can, have our family, say to you and I, and live the life we really want
Yeah.
to.
And off the hamster wheel.
And every time I look at the United States, unfortunately, that faith in that is not increasing. I'm not feeling like it is the best
Right.
route. Right. And then we were looking at a whole bunch of stuff, and the idea of being dual citizen came up. It turned out I was qualified. We looked at Colombia as a potential place of visiting. We said, okay, so we have these feelings about the United States. What are our feelings over here about Colombia with the same points?
Yeah.
And we found affordable, safe enough,
Climate.
climate. And there's a lot of aspects that were just hitting all the right notes. And part of that is because the consumerism there is nowhere near what it is here. It's not a place like, I mean, I've had to purchase multiple laptops because the technology changes so quickly, and the crap that happens forced me to get a new computer, where if life slows down to a quarter of the speed, my stuff lasts 4 times as long.
They've just put a new tax in Colombia. They just put a new tax on junk food.
Right.
That was so crazy
And
to me.
it also scales based on sugar content.
That's just, they would never do that here in the United
Something
States.
was no, because you and those are the things that kind of frustrate me is you have systems that are broken because another system's broken, and in order to fix this, there's so much that has to be repaired in the United States in order to get the regular basic
Right.
human provisions to even be there.
That Colombia's bureaucracy isn't, it's like whacked out. Not that there isn't corruption, right? We've never experienced that on that level. Our corruption in our government is different, but still there. So we're going to check it out. We're going to see. We're not saying that the United States is the worst place.
No,
in the world to live.
all that was to say, when I think about 10 years from now, what is it that I want, and can I get that where I currently am?
Yeah, exactly.
Or is that something I need to look elsewhere? I went into like the specifics of it.
Sure.
And it's not about politics. It's about the broken systems that are supposed to be for the people,
right,
but are not.
And
even if you just look at taxation and you look at income tax and then property tax and then sales tax, and by the end of the day, you've been taxed between 2 and 4 times on the same dollar.
Yeah.
Something is broken there that is the way it is. And I'm not saying that needs to be fixed. I'm just saying it's not in the best interest of the people.
It's not. Yeah, I agree. And we'll see. Like, I think every country has their whatever, but we're looking at what works best for us. So we're going to wrap this up today.
Yeah.
Pay attention. Like, if you're going to go to Colombia, do your resource checks. Like, make sure that you are doing your due diligence, staying aware, using common sense. Get onto italki, learn some Spanish, talk with a local of wherever you're going to go visit, ask them the questions. And next week, Chad, we're going to talk about Colombian festivals and celebrations. They have so many.
I love that. I love reasons to celebrate humans. Like
they do a lot there.
Yeah.
So until next time, keep expanding your horizons and living beyond the desk. Have an extraordinary week.